Welcome to another episode of RfRx. My name is Eric Wells, and I am the support group director for Recovering from Religion. And with me, as always, well, not as always, but as almost always, is Kara Griffin. And she is a helpline agent for Recovering from Religion. Just like every single RfRx, we have a poll at the beginning. And today's poll, we've got 3 questions, and these questions are kind of designed to get you in the mindset of what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm kind of excited because today is the first episode in a series all about foundations and nonprofits. So the questions are, I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Are you aware of the work Black Nonbelievers does? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Question number 2, are racial justice issues important to address within the secular community? Yes, no, haven't really thought about it, or no opinion. And question number 3, are you interested in seeing more people of color, attendees and leaders in the secular community? Yes, no, or maybe. So those are the poll questions. They'll be running while we do our little introduction and wrap it up as we start to introduce our guests. So Kara, we're here with RfRx. What the heck is RfRx?
Great question. So RfRx is a series of online weekly sessions where we bring in guests to discuss topics that might be of interest to folks in RfR. And today we have a recurring guest back by popular demand. So I know she will definitely be of interest. So super excited about that. And of course, this is meant to be a complement to our online communities and support groups. It's not a replacement for them, but it's intended to be a place where we can come together and hopefully get some good advice and coping skills about things, and then also engage in the very popular hangout session afterwards where we just get together and chat about whatever topics come up after the talk. And as always, any kind of questions, comments, things like that can be emailed to us at rfrx@recoveringfromreligion.org. And all of the previous recordings from other sessions can be found on our YouTube channel, which is YouTube/recoveringfromreligion. So definitely be sure and check those out. There's some more from Mandisa that you can watch if you really enjoy this one, as well as many, many others. And I think we're all up to date on the previous ones, aren't we, Eric?
Yeah, they're not all out yet, but they have all been edited and they have been uploaded to YouBoob. Don't go to youboob.com. I promise you, that's you're not going to find RfR there. You might find Dr. Dale Ray, but you're not going to find RfR there at all. YouTube, they're all uploaded to YouTube and scheduled to be released over the next few weeks. So we are caught up, as in my view.
Excellent, that counts.
Well, you have heard us say RfR quite a bit, and that stands for Recovering from Religion. And we are a nonprofit organization. We got tons of volunteers doing amazing work, and we've got a mission statement. We all are going towards the same mission. And our mission is to offer hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non-belief. And we have quite a few programs to accomplish and to pursue that mission, the one of which is healing. So tell us about how we accomplish healing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main way that we provide healing is through our helpline, which you can contact through our chat feature or by phone, where we always have helpline agents available 24/7 to chat with you. And they're there to listen with an empathetic ear. They're not going to be judging or criticizing or proselytizing or deconverting or anything like that. They're there for you, and they are trained. It's peer support, but they are trained rigorously to provide those services for people who call or chat in, and you can find them on recoveringfromreligion.org. You can find our phone number or the link to chat, as well as you can find our resource page. If you don't want to call or chat in, but you just want to see some resources that might help you out, you can definitely find a huge library of those as well at recoveringfromreligion.org/resources. And then, besides healing, we also try to offer hope, which is basically done through sharing and listening to personal stories from other people who may have gone through similar or even different experiences. But kind of the idea behind this is that we're all in this together, and we've all gone through various different kinds of struggles, and sometimes it might help to hear, hey, this person got through this difficult time, they were able to overcome this thing, and maybe that makes me feel like, hey, I'm going to be able to get through this as well, or give some ideas for coping and things like that. And so you can find those on our blog or our podcast at medium.com/excommunications is our blog. And then our podcast is at recoveringfromreligion.org/podcast. And Eric has dropped all of those links into the chat.
Yeah.
And how about support?
Absolutely. A little bit of an update on the podcast. We have got a team together, and they're actually putting these RfRx videos. They're stripping the audio and editing it for the podcast. So it's kind of neat that if you're not able to make it for whatever reason during a live Zoom session, or don't really want to watch the video, rather listen to it in your ears while you're driving or mowing the lawn, then we're getting caught up and putting these things in the podcast feed. So it's kind of cool. Now back to your question about support. Yes, this is my favorite part. I'm the support group director, and we have a whole program where folks can come together for about 2 hours or so and just talk about how religion has harmed them, the struggles that they're going through, the trauma that they've experienced, and even some of the doubts that they have. These are virtual meetings for them at the moment, but as we start to kick COVID out the door, then we'll start to have more and more in-person meetings. But having a lot of people, not a lot, but like it's small, less than 20 people, oftentimes like 4, 5, 6 folks together, discussing and sharing some of the stuff that they've gone through is really, oddly enough, quite healing for people. I know for me personally it was. We have well over 60 groups around the world, and you can find one near you, or even if there isn't one near you, since it's virtual, we're able to you're able to join them if it works in your schedule. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and you can find one that's near you if you're looking to talk and share about what's been going on. In addition to that, we've talked about the helpline, talked about the support groups. Those are peer support, but there are times where we're going to need more than just what peer support can offer. We'll need professional support. And that's why we've set up the Secular Therapy Project. It's where clients like myself can connect with therapists who are secular and vetted by a group of secular therapists as well, to make sure that they have the appropriate licensing in their state or country, to make sure that they maintain a secular practice, so you won't run the risk of being proselytized to, and to make sure that they have solely an evidence-based treatments. They use evidence-based treatments. And you can find all that at seculartherapy.org. The one other thing that we were kind of identifying that folks who are dealing with trauma or dealing with doubts, or coming out, deconverting, transitioning out of religion, is to have be around folks that are struggling with some similar issues. And so we've set up the RfR online community. Boy, I'm doing really good with English language today. We set up the RfR online community. And this is an online platform. It's not at all public place. You cannot find it in the internets at all. You have to be invited to it. So if this is something that you're interested in, you can go to the helpline, and you can get vetted by the helpline agents and just ask you a few questions to make sure that it's an appropriate place for you. And so just call up or chat with the helpline agents, and you'll be able to hopefully get invited there. In addition to that, if you have begun to transition out of religion and you're looking for community online, perhaps, you are more than welcome to take a look at the Atheist Community of Discord. I will drop the Atheist Community of Discord link into the chat. All right, I've been talking quite a bit. Kara, what's next?
Never a problem. Yeah, so next we'll talk about volunteering, which is actually another way that healing can come about for people. Definitely a lot of our volunteers, including myself, have found a lot of meaning and purpose in being able to help other people through these struggles through volunteering with RfR. And fortunately, we are always in need of volunteers. If you have some skills that you would like to offer, or if you think you might make a good fit for the helpline community or a support group leader or anything like that, we do do offer training for those things. Also, there are plenty of other roles you can fill into. As you've probably noticed in the chat, our troll stompers are hard at work already. Thank you so much, y'all. It's a good job and very necessary. And also, if you have other skills that you might be able to offer, whether it's tech skills, project management, whatever it is, we probably have a need for you. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in doing, you can check us out at recoveringfromreligion.org/volunteer and see what that would look like if you were to start volunteering. And there's an application process on there. So feel free to check that out and join us. And then I think that's enough of the introductions. Let me talk a little bit about the meeting format. What we're going to do tonight is the same as every Monday night. Try to take over the, oh no, wait, that's not it. It's actually, we're going to have a discussion.
You can be Brain, I'll be Pinky.
Yes. Same thing we do every night.
What we going to do tonight, right?
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world. Okay, that was a callback to old people's childhood. Sorry, any Gen Z people on here if you don't understand our very old references. Great cartoon though. But no, that's not what we're going to do. That is not our agenda. We're actually going to have a discussion for about an hour with our guest speaker tonight, who I'm super excited to hear from. And then after that, we're going to do question and answer for about 20 or 30 minutes. And so if you have questions during the discussion, please type them into the chat, and we'll be collecting those from our chat as well as from the ACD Discord. So we'll be gathering those to ask at the end. So put those in any time. And then after that, we'll have closing thoughts from our wonderful executive director, Gayle Jordan, who has a fantastic new microphone setup that we're going to get to enjoy. So look forward to that. And then we'll move on to our hangout session, which is where we turn off the recording and let people just chat about whatever has come to mind. And sometimes our speaker hangs around a little bit for that. We'll see what time it is, how she's feeling. And then that can go on for quite some time. So be sure to stick around for that if you want to have more interactive participation in this session. And that's all I've got, Eric.
Great. Well, now let me introduce our fantastic guest. She is no stranger to RfRx, and she's had several discussions of her own, as well as even co-hosting once as well. She's just a fantastic woman, and I'm very lucky to know her and call her my friend. Mandisa Thomas. She is the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, and she currently serves on the boards for American Atheists and for the American Humanist Association. She also is a support group leader, believe it or not, for the Morrow, Georgia chapter of Recovering from Religion. And I got to tell you, she has won, so well-deserved, so many awards, the 2020 Harvard Humanist of the Year, and she co-won that with Sikivu Hutchinson, who was also a former guest, and also the 2019 Freethought Heroine, from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the 2019 Backbone Award from the Secular Student Alliance, and the 2018 Person of the Year from the Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association. Mandisa, I am so glad that you're on here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you to everyone at RfR and RfRx. Thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Kara, Glenda, and everyone who is attending this evening. Wow, I saw the chat, quite a few trolls in here. And it's interesting because we're no strangers to trolls in this community. And when I say we, I mean people of color, I mean Black folks. And this is part of what I'm going to speak on this evening. Now, for those of you who have who have attended previous RfRx meetings, and if you're a member of Black Nonbelievers, or if you've heard me speak previously, some of this information won't be new to you. To others, it may be new, and also to others who are familiar, but who don't fully understand the need for to support our organization. Hopefully, I'll be able to convey that this evening. So I'm going to get into the presentation where I talk about everything, almost everything Black Nonbelievers, which is now one of my favorite subjects, because I don't just like to speak about what the problems are. I do like to include what solutions we have provided, the support that we have provided, and the healing we have provided, along with the challenges that we face. So hopefully you will enjoy this presentation and learn something or think about something in a different way. So this is the RfRx Spotlight on Black Nonbelievers from Recovering from Religion. So we are going to get into it. And so just a bit about me, a little bit more about me, in addition to the wonderful things Eric just said, which I certainly appreciate. I am the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers. I am a New York City native, born and raised in Jamaica, Queens. And actually, I wasn't formally raised religious. So next month is my birthday. I will be 45 years old. I have no problems telling my age. And I grew up in a time in the Black community, if you're old enough to remember, that the 70s, it was a very eclectic time. It was still, there were a lot of things going on in the United States in the 70s. It was just on the heels of the Civil Rights Movement. And there were a lot of things happening. And so there was a shift in the Black community, in particular, to become more aware of Black history and culture and to identify with Black history and culture. And so in that, my parents they named my brothers and I African names. And also, there are a lot of my peers, people who I've come to know over the years, actually some of my cousins as well. We have African names as well. And so we were born in this time period. And fortunately enough, I also had other secular influences in my maternal grandmother, who was born and raised in New Orleans. And I just remember growing up that there were very few references to prayer and to a God or any other deity when there were family gatherings on my mom's side. Dad's side's different story. Father went to church, hated it, and therefore is pretty much a lapsed believer. But my mother made a concerted effort to keep my brothers and I out of the church to the extent where we had to abide by these teachings in the Bible and such. So but I was raised in the Black conscious community, and I was raised with an acute awareness and a strong sense of what it meant to be proud to be Black, and to be proud in that identity, and learning about lots of Black history and culture, as well as aspects of racial injustice and economic injustice as a child. So there was a lot of information and education involved. It really, really helped shape my worldview and outlook as an adult, which I do carry with me in my family life as well as in my activism, in case you hadn't noticed. So this was very much. Now, I am a classically trained singer. And so my voice instructor would have me sing at various churches in the New York City area growing up, particularly in the borough of Queens. And so one of the things that always stuck with me was the concept of the Trinity God, and how it really didn't make any sense, how the God of the Bible was just seemed to be worse than the devil. So these were just things that, and also I read a lot as a child, read different forms of mythology throughout the world. And so in comparing and contrasting these different beliefs, it really gave me, again, a sense of awareness and the ability to really just kind of look and think, well, I'm not sure if I really want to identify as a Christian, right? So, I've had years to reflect and perhaps go through some, go through some sense of, well, what do I believe in, and what do I, how do I navigate this part of my life? And so eventually, I came to my identity as an atheist unapologetically. And in that time of Black Nonbelievers inception, I was working full-time as the event services manager at the Centers for Disease Control's campus right near Emory University in Atlanta. And in 2018, which is now 3 years ago, I resigned from that job and transitioned to full-time activism. So now you have my not completely undivided attention and dedication to activism, but it is mostly primarily. So this is what I do now full time. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, in the bottom corner underneath my photo here, you can help support my activism through my Patreon. There are some of you who are already patrons, and I appreciate your patronage. And so this is what helps with my activism and the ability to run Black Nonbelievers along with my organizing team, some of whom are on this meeting, and I'm glad to see them here. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I've worked at quite a few places, and because I decided that this was where my time and my skills and my expertise was needed, and the fact that what my identity and what finding community meant to me, it helped me to better understand how I could contribute more through the organization and through in my other capacities. So I am a full-time activist now, and I will be stressing that because supporting people who are activists and the organizers in this movement is very, very important. So as Eric said, I currently serve on the boards for American Atheists, the American Humanist Association, and I also I have been I've been elected to the board of Humanist Global Charity. And I also serve in other capacities with and work on other, and in addition to recovering from religion, I'm still, a facilitator. And as noted, as Eric said, I am the recipient of the following awards. I always say that I did not get involved for the recognition, but it is nice when it comes. And last but not least, as of 2021, May of 2021, or April rather, I am now a certified humanist celebrant. So I can perform weddings and other community services. So if you are interested in having me perform any ceremony for you, particularly a wedding ceremony, please feel free to look me up. I'd be more than happy to perform a wedding ceremony for you. I'm certified through the Humanist Society and Universal Life Church. But I am happy I performed my first wedding. I did my first wedding back in May of this year, and it was really, really wonderful. I am glad to be able to add that to my resume because it is activism for us to be able to offer services for our growing community, and our community overall is growing. And so I'm very, very happy to be a part of the Humanist Celebrant family. Thank you very much to Gayle for her endorsement of me, as well as others. And so I just had to mention that. So now we're going to get into Black Nonbelievers and discussing the organization. So here's a quote from one of our longtime members that I absolutely have to start off with. And it reads, "Before seeing that video of you on YouTube, I really thought I was the only Black person who didn't believe in God. I then logged onto Facebook and found your organization. The joy and relief I felt seeing and meeting so many Black people who were skeptical or outright didn't believe. Thank you again for being an inspiration and bringing visibility to atheism/secularism in the Black community. It is so needed." Now, some of you may be asking, why is there a need for an organization like Black Nonbelievers when there are already existing organizations that challenge state church separation, that offers support for people who leave religion. And these organizations are absolutely important. Why does there need to be an organization specifically focusing on Black non-believers? And part of it is because, again, there are still so many Black folks who think they are the only ones out there that are either questioning or who don't believe, but they are still surrounded by family members and friends, and they don't think that there are more of us out here. And there are definitely a lot of reasons for that and I'll definitely explain that shortly. But when this is consistent feedback, even in 2021, that there are still Black folks who don't think that there are others out here like them, then there is a need for an organization like ours to show that, one, that there are definitely more of us, and that we are also organizing, we are networking, we are speaking up, even when the challenges seem insurmountable. And so this is very, very important. So for our organization, for Black Nonbelievers, we started as Black Nonbelievers of Atlanta in January of 2011. The initial, the initial goal was to start a just local to the Atlanta area, a fellowship, people, where we got folks together, where we just started networking with, where we wanted to network with other local organizations in the Atlanta area, and just really just establish that support base here. We changed it simply to Black Nonbelievers in November of that year because there was interest in starting similar groups in different cities. And because of our style of in-person events, as well as the way we did it, because as I said before, my Blackness is reflected in my activism, and I am unapologetic about it. For those of you who don't really, who aren't familiar with me, I didn't mention this, but I'm a huge hip hop fan. I'm a fan of music and almost everything that is not almost everything, because I don't like Tyler Perry or anything like that, but what we have offered as an organization is, support that is definitely reflective of the Black community and also of the people who can relate. People who are not always looking to have these very, very heady conversations about philosophy and religion and such, even though we do have them, but we are very versatile. So there was interest in starting similar groups and also to combat some of the challenges that others were facing in predominantly white groups. Because sad to say, as much as some people don't like to admit it, these things still happen. So we expanded our scope nationally because we wanted to start facilitating, we wanted to start establishing groups in different cities. So Atlanta would be the headquarters, and this is where we're still headquartered. And so we officially became a 501c3 organization in 2014. We incorporated in 2011, and that was a challenge, but yeah, we officially became a 501c3 organization, and now we are the largest and most recognized Black atheist organization within the secular community. Now that doesn't mean that there were other entities when we first got started, even that even predate us. For example, African Americans for Humanism was previously a program of the Center for Inquiry, and they launched a billboard campaign back in 2012, which I was a part of. There was also Black Atheists of America, which was based out of New York City, who we eventually started working with. You also have Black Skeptics Los Angeles, which is still an active organization, and we work with actively. So there were other groups and other organizations that already existed. However, as I said previously, because we were only supposed to be local to the Atlanta area. We became Black Nonbelievers of Atlanta, not to try and compete with any of these organizations, because our expanded mission included, evidence-based practices beyond religion. We thought that Black Nonbelievers was the appropriate title or the appropriate name for our organization. And so we realized that we could work in conjunction with these other organizations, whether they were dedicated or targeting people of color or just overall. And so now at 10 years old, yes, we are the largest and most recognized organization, and I'm very, very proud of that. And we are our work is educational in part, and we are continuing the work of some historic Black atheists, humanists, and freethinkers. And here are a few names, for example, for those of you, and I never fail to I never fail whenever I ask a question about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, for example, who is basically the foundation for Black History Month. I always get that people they don't know who he is. They aren't familiar. He's an African-American historian, famously wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro in 1925. He's a Harvard graduate. And again, founded Negro History Week, which became Black History Month. And he was an avid critic of the church and religion, along with some of the other names here, some you may be familiar with. If you aren't, I highly recommend that you do a quick search, especially Lorraine Hansberry and Zora Neale Hurston. There are many other historic Black atheists, humanists, and freethinkers out there, for those of you who didn't think we existed previously. That's also another aspect, again, to our activism, is to disrupt and redefine that narrative that Black folks have never challenged and questioned religion, which simply isn't true. But in order for us to redefine and disrupt this narrative, we must understand why religion defines the Black community. And that is because 79% of the Black community still identifies as religious. And this has been this has been reconfirmed in recent Pew Research studies as of February of this year, which confirms that 79% of the Black community, even though the number of traditionally religious they're declining, the overall numbers are still very high, especially with the Black community being approximately 12% of the United States population. And this is also because slavery in the United States, in addition to slavery and enslavement around the world, but the enslavement of Africans and their descendants they were forced to accept Christianity, and this was a matter of law. But even after that, the Black church became a primary support once slavery and Reconstruction ended and institutionalized racism was enacted and enforced. Now, for those who are critics of critical race theory, I have just a question for you. If you knew that your ancestors were trafficked to a country to build it with no compensation at all, and then once it was outlawed, once they actually started trying to build a support system for themselves and their communities, only to have it destroyed by legal means and also terrorist means. And for these laws to actually be built into the fabric of how people see a certain group of people. How do you think you would feel to know that this impacted your ancestors and their ability to sufficiently provide, a stable life, and for their families and future generations? How do you think you would feel about that? And again, this doesn't negate other world atrocities, but there are some people who truly need to understand what critical race theory is, as well as understanding the institutions of racism and injustice. And this, we cannot talk about what has impacted the Black community without talking about that, because it is a huge part of the education process, and also to better understanding why the Black church became so important to so many Black people, which is one of the reasons why it can be so much more difficult, because it became an institution that many Black folks relied on for support and community. And let's not forget the fact that there were many historically Black colleges and universities that were started as a result of religious institutions, and that some are still funded by. So we cannot disavow or cannot ignore the roles that the church played, especially when it was needed. Of course, it doesn't excuse it, because you can go to Pew Research to look at the latest statistics about religion in the Black community. But I also, and many others in this community also charge religion and the church with being a crippling agent for the Black community. Because even though, the attributes and the accomplishments that I mentioned, we certainly can't ignore them. We certainly can't ignore this part either. So religion and the Black church has hijacked the image of the Black community historically and currently. That there is still very little known information about historic Black humanists and freethinkers, as well as those of us who are active, and the fact that there are many historic Black figures and icons whose atheism and freethought are downplayed. Langston Hughes, for example, when there are many people who admire Langston Hughes as a poet and an author, but they often either dismiss or are not aware of his critiques of religion. Also, another one is James Baldwin. And also, it ignores how Blacks became predominantly Christian in the United States. Now, we often get the question of, well, I don't understand why there are so many people, Black folks, who are believers. And, this is a part of that education and understanding the institutional factors. And sadly, for many Black folks, they tend to ignore it as well, especially Black believers. So this is also a part of what we are trying to change. Religion reinforces dependence on a savior, either believing in one and also trying to become one. And I say this because within our communities, there is still this idea that either one entity or one person can save everyone. And that is not, and that is just, it isn't even godly possible. It really is not. And unfortunately, with the mindset of religion in the Black community, as well as all the other issues that are faced, people don't realize that when they leave religion behind, how much this thought process carries with them, that there is this idea that there is going to be either the next leader or someone who is going to carry us through, like Moses to the promised land, and that just isn't going to happen. And in truth, that actually hasn't been the case. There have always been human beings that have worked on and fought for us. But unfortunately, the credit always goes to this, to this entity that some people call God or whatever. And that does trickle down into how people think and also how they act and also interact with others. And of course, religion, yes, it does perpetuate homophobia, sexism, hypocrisy, all of that stuff. It's always what do parents say? Some parents say, do as I say, not as I do. You have these leaders who will say one thing in public and are doing something totally different in private, and as well as mistreat and even torture and brutalize other people. Also overlooks abusive actions that are committed by religious people and leaders. And I always reference the late Bishop Eddie Long, who was the former pastor of New Birth in Lithonia, Georgia, which is now headed up by Jamal Bryant, the scandalous Jamal Bryant. And sufficiently, it takes money from the community, but doesn't sufficiently give it back. Now, of course, during these pandemic times, there has been a decrease in church attendance, and there was a Gallup poll that was recently released about overall church attendance being down by almost 50%. However, in the Black community, support for churches is still astronomically high. And I also do not give a pass for churches providing community services, which they sufficiently receive funds for, because that's what they're there for. There are many people who credit churches with offering services for, for people like childcare and such. Certainly they may offer it, but they don't provide it. There's a difference there. People are still paying for those services one way or another. And so, and the church, especially the Black community, and we see some of the leaders, we see your Creflo Dollars, we see the TD Jakes, and we see some of these mega pastors, and also even your Joel Osteens with that, with that crazy, ridiculous smile that so many people just love, especially Black folks. We see how they, live, we see their congregations, they're very, very lavish. And how are their communities faring? How are the communities around them? Also, how are, and who is it supporting? Is it supporting only a certain segment of the population, which we can say that in many Black communities where there is a church on almost every corner, that is in the communities that surround them, there is certainly, there's a story to tell there. Keeps people in fear and isolation and seeking help and solutions that are needed. It has only been in recent years that the church as a collective, the Black church as a collective, started addressing the HIV/AIDS epidemic, the issues that the LGBTQ plus communities and their members face. It has only been within recent years. It has been, and also it has only been recently that many churches have started addressing mental health and the mental health of their members. And usually it is still rooted in some sort of spirituality and this idea that somehow you still need to turn to God in order to heal, which for many people is still like a revolving door. And it was previously, if you had these mental issues, it was a demon of some sort, or it was just still very, very lacking. And it's sad to say that, yes, there are still many within the Black community who look down on mental health, and even in my own family. And it is very heartbreaking. And many of us are looking to turn around that stigma. And also, there are still a disproportionately low number of secular Black and people of color mental health professionals. So this is also a challenge, and that we're having to deal with. And of course, the fact that if you are Black and you identify as an atheist, you are potentially rejecting your Black identity. In many people's eyes. It is seen as, well, there are Black folks who challenge the institution of the church, but as far as letting God go altogether, that is just something that Black folks don't do. And if you do, you're seen as some sort of race traitor. You're seen as trying to be like one of those white people. Meanwhile, it is white evangelicalism that was responsible for enslavement of many peoples in the first place. So there's irony in that. But when it comes to what it means to be Black and coming from Black communities or Black identities, certainly atheism still isn't seen as being one of them, and which can mean extra added challenges on still a very small demographic. And so these are some of the things that if you didn't know that we dealt with them, hopefully now you do. And so I just want to get into the definition of grassroots for a moment, because that term has been floating around in the secular community for the past few years. There has been more of an effort to try to drive grassroots efforts in order to reach members. And so that definition is the most basic level of an activity or an organization, and ordinary people regarded as the main body of an organization's membership. So while Black Nonbelievers as an organization doesn't have like a formal membership process, we certainly do have members and subscribers. And we are just your everyday people who go to work, people who have families, people who are just trying to build a better life for themselves and their families. And these are the folks that we are trying to reach, especially because they are often the ones who are struggling the most with these challenges with leaving religion and also dealing with family members and friends. And again, as the most basic level, could be anything. When people think of activism, you're often thinking of the protests, you're thinking of the activities that put people out in front, which are absolutely important, but many people don't realize that it's the support and the foundation that are beyond this, that goes beyond the scenes or behind the scenes, and also on the smallest levels or even the smallest activities do help. Even if you're meeting with just 5 people in person, that is activism, and I just have to say that. So what does BN do? We do provide support for primarily Blacks who have left religion and identify as, with any secular or non-believing identity. We also provide support and, dare I say, refuge for those questioning religion in favor of leaving, because it is a form of refuge. We also host and collaborate on a number of activities, including meetings, other social gatherings, service projects. We do volunteer on different with other community organizations. We also work to increase the number of openly identified Black atheists. Now, is it required that you be out as an atheist to be a part of our organization? No. We respect people's confidentiality and anonymity, and that's always going to be important because we understand that that is a journey and that is a step that individuals have to make on their own. We don't push that. However, we do encourage open identification because guess what? Numbers matter, communities matter, and representation matters. So it does make a difference. We also guide members on how to approach the subject of non-belief with religious family members and acquaintances and friends. And last but not least, we feature and highlight Black atheist content creators, activists, writers, and other organizations who might not otherwise be familiar to the overall secular community. If you take a look at almost any other major organization or in the events that they produce, you may see people of color in spots. You may see either 1 or 2 Black speakers, but within Black Nonbelievers, and knowing that there are other creators and activists out there, we try to centralize and bring everyone together, as well as provide resources and a database for other organizations to pull from, which is absolutely important. We also try to provide leadership opportunities for those who are interested. That's something that's always a work in progress with all of our organizations. But we certainly, if you are passionate about getting involved, we certainly encourage you to. So here are just a few examples of our activism. If you aren't familiar with Candace Gorham, she is a part of the Secular Therapy Project. She previously wrote a book called The Ebony Exodus Project, which was released in 2013, which featured myself and other members of Black Nonbelievers, other women. This book is available on Amazon.com and Pitchstone Publishing, if I'm not mistaken. And also you have Roe, who is our Washington, D.C. affiliate organizer, and he is participating in marches and protests in the D.C. area, as well as with the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty and the Religious Freedom Center. I've also had the opportunity to present with them as well. And we actively represent the atheist and non-religious perspective in interfaith organizations and interfaith events. We also produce, as you can see, we also produce conferences, and we have other meetings. We are featured in the media. We've been covered by the news. This is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution from 2017. And this is a picture at BNCCon from 2019. And you see a familiar face there in Daryl Ray, and also a couple of folks who are on this meeting as well. Hello to you all. So this is just a visual example, one of the visual examples of Black nonbelievers and the work that we are doing, especially in providing support for not just our members, but also representing openly and unapologetically the atheist perspective in conversations that are needed. So we, as I said before, we've had a few, we've been covered and featured quite a bit. First and foremost, in the Humanist magazine from July, August 2018. Some of you may have that issue, which featured the 5 fierce humanists, myself, Candace Gorm, Sikivu Hutchinson, Bria Crutchfield, and Liz Ross. We also have been honored to have been featured in the God Talk series, which is produced by the National Museum for African American Culture, about Black millennials who are leaving religion, and also Black folks who are abandoning traditional religious beliefs. And here are just a few more outlets that we've been covered in: The Humanist, Playboy, CBS Sunday Morning. Some of these, the CBS Sunday Morning clip is still available on YouTube if you hadn't seen it. It's from if you type in. I'm not sure if you can type in Black nonbelievers, but if you type in challenges facing atheists in the US, you will find that clip. And also although we exist as an autonomous organization, we do partner, and we do have partners and allies in this movement. And here are just a few, including Recovering from Religion and other secular organizations, because we realize that we do not exist and we do not work in this community alone. And therefore, we all work together. And even though some of our missions are similar, most of our missions are similar, to many of us also have targeted demographics, which there's nothing wrong with. As you can see here, Camp Quest targets and specifically provides camps for children and young adults. And you have ex-Muslims in North America, and you have other organizations that have specific focuses. And Black Nonbelievers is no different, because guess what? There is no one organization that can cover every need, and that needs to be understood. And so here are our active affiliates where you can find us. There are a few more, but these are the affiliates that have active organizers: Atlanta, my hometown of New York City, Washington, D.C., of course, and a few. And you can directly connect to those groups through our website. We are all on Meetup, and you can subscribe to more, or one or more, because we are now also doing virtual events. We are starting to transition somewhat back into in-person on a limited basis. There are quite a few of our events that are virtual, so you are more than welcome to join any one or more of our affiliate groups to get more involved. So here are some of our current programs and initiatives. Last year, we launched the True Liberation Billboard campaign, and this was co-sponsored by the Steeple Freethought Foundation on the heels of our Black family discussion about Christianity, white supremacy, and true liberation. And shortly after, we erected 2 billboards that were digital, and these were the images. They are now, we have turned them into bumper stickers as well. So, and this is the slogan is "Free yourself from religion and find true liberation," because we do advocate, especially for Black folks, that they free themselves from those fundamental beliefs to start. We also co-sponsored the Zora Neale Hurston Scholarship in partnership with the Secular Student Alliance. And this year's applications are open. If you know of a Black college student that can benefit from the scholarship, please send them to the Secular Student Alliance's website so that they can apply. The deadline is August 31st. And last but not least, we have our ongoing Being Changes Lives campaign. And this is our collection of stories / testimonies from our members and allies who have either left religion behind or who didn't know that there was an organization that was specifically dedicated to amplifying and providing support, particularly for Black folks. And these stories are very compelling. These testimonies are very compelling. You find that there are people who are not just struggling with leaving religion behind, but there are also other things that they are struggling with, and that we've also not just changed their lives, but also saved them. So I'm very, very proud of that. And over the course of our existence, we've had we've had the opportunity to connect with quite a few people who are still active within our organization. And we're, again, this is the type of work that when we hear the experiences and the journeys, some of which are very, very heartbreaking, but to know that we have been a part of affecting how their lives have changed since leaving religion, and them knowing that there's a support system, it makes that all worth it. So here's a part where I say you can help. Here are things that you can help us do, especially if you are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just being committed to this movement. So when people of color and when Black folks specifically are speaking, do listen and learn from us. Come in with an open mind, be objective, and understand that secular activism goes beyond state-church separation. And also getting people to understand atheist identity, which are important, but it goes beyond that. Do adjust your attitudes and actions when presented with new information. We are a community that prides itself on education and learning, which means that when there is an area that might be a bit of a discomfort to us, it's important to adjust yourself. That the saying goes, when you know better, you do better. And when people are telling you about how they've been treated, and also what they have been through, it is important that if you even think that you might have been guilty of perpetrating some of these things, and it may not necessarily be personal, but at the same time, do reflect and take the time, to think on it, because that's something that we all need to do. Do check and redirect any problematic members or leaders and remove them if necessary. Now, again, this may be uncomfortable for some, but as our movement grows and there are more people and there are other areas that are of importance, when you have people who are stuck and they're saying that there's only one area that is important, or they say that these things are important, but their actions are showing something different, if they continue, especially after they have been told or warned, then it may be time to remove them. I always say that our communities and we are not the church. We do hold people accountable, and we should. So when redirection doesn't work, then it's important for the growth of your it's important to the growth of your organizations that if you are looking to be more diverse and be more inclusive, that you get rid of some of those problematic folks. And that's just the bottom line. Do collaborate and participate on a consistent basis. Do make sure that if you are a secular organization, or if you are a member of another organization and you would like to shed more light on the secular community, do make sure that you are working with other organizations actively and not just one time. Also, do have information and resources available to those who may be looking for it. And of course, last but not least, do donate and support. As I said before, our organization is a 501c3. We are a nonprofit, so donations to us are tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law. And like most other organizations, we need money. There is no getting around that. We are going to be working on rebranding our website soon, and also implementing other initiatives and other things. So we're going to also be centralizing more of our communications as well. So, and your support will absolutely be needed for that. Here are just a few references and resources for you. You have Humanists in the Hood from previous speaker Sikivu Hutchinson, among some of her other works. You also have Black Freethinkers by Christopher Cameron. I wrote a piece on being a Black atheist and the issues, challenges that Black atheists face on CNN. And also Contradiction, A Question of Faith by Jeremiah Kamara, who is one of our longtime homies at BN. He is also presented with other secular organizations and at other conferences as well. So these are just a few references if you are looking to learn more, and you can find more on our website. So in closing, this particular part of this presentation, of my presentation here, this is liberation work. These two photos were taken at this year's official Juneteenth celebration in the Atlanta area. If you look at the picture of me holding up the sign of Butterfly McQueen, who is another noted historic atheist, behind me on the main stage was a church service that was hosted by New Birth, who I mentioned earlier, and their scandalous pastor, Jamal Bryant. We were subjected to this at the Juneteenth celebration, and most Juneteenth celebrations are still very religious in nature, even though it speaks to liberation and especially of enslavement. To help and to show that there are other Black folks out there who no longer believe or who never believed, and that we are active in our communities is work. This is another part of, again, liberation work that is absolutely important to not just the Black community, to our members at Black Nonbelievers, but also to the overall secular community. And it isn't easy. We still, again, have a long fight ahead of us, but we are doing that work. We are not just waiting for things to change. We're waiting for change to fall into our laps. 10 years ago, we decided that there was something that needed to be done about it. And from there, we just continue to grow and continue to engage our communities. And I will tell you, even though there was that big ass church service behind us on that Sunday morning, and there were many people who were on that stage, local politicians who were referencing God endlessly, we had the opportunity to engage and meet a number of people who no longer believe. In fact, there was a mother and daughter who came by our table, and the daughter said to the mom, "See, mommy, I told you we weren't alone." And this is not the first time this has happened. We're seeing more younger people and more people in general, especially Black folks, who are coming out of those beliefs, even if they aren't there to the point where they are just outright identifying as atheists. They are getting there. And for those who are still fundamental believers, guess what? They are going to know that we are here as well, and that we are unapologetic with our position. We certainly are unapologetic with our marketing, as you can see from our table there, because this is absolutely important, again, for all of us. We are helping people to liberate themselves and their minds from the things that they thought they couldn't possibly be, that they couldn't possibly think were valid. They didn't think that their questions, their doubts, that their critiques of religion were valid, and they are. And to know that there are organizations like Black Nonbelievers and others, but those of us who are specifically targeting Black folks, because guess what? We are needed. To know that we are continuing to do this work, that there are people who are learning from our existence, that they are being validated by our existence, and the fact that they know that even if it can't be out, we are out there fighting for them. We are out there advocating for them. This is the type of work that needs to be supported and that is vital to our communities. And so I'm very, very, I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak more about Black Nonbelievers and the work we do, because we are showing that we are, even if we don't have all of the answers, there are solutions, and people need to know that they do have the option to let go and to be liberated, and that there are other Black folks who already have and who are going through it. And guess what? We are growing. So this next slide here is a video that was produced by RoW, who is our Washington, D.C. affiliate chapter. So even if my words didn't move you tonight, perhaps this video will.
try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Yeah. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Even no possessions. I wonder if you can. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, yeah, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join.
All right. So that video again was produced by Ro, who is a actual performance artist and the organizer for our Washington, D.C. affiliate. So here are all of the ways that you can follow and subscribe to Black Nonbelievers on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. And also you may donate to and support BN directly on our website. You can make your contribution recurring monthly. We are on Cash App. We also accept foundation giving requests. You can also designate us as a beneficiary on your Amazon Smile. We also now have a TD Ameritrade stock account, so you can transfer stock to us. And if your organization has a workplace charitable giving program, all you need is our tax ID number, which is on our website. And you can designate a portion of your paycheck to benefit Black Nonbelievers. We are working on becoming a part of the combined federal campaign very shortly, so that federal employees can also donate to us as well directly through their paychecks. So, and also we hope that you support our upcoming events. Please join Recovering from Religion in supporting this year's Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference, which will be taking place from September 24th through 26th. Online streaming is available. We do have that option. If you'd like to see some amazing women of color activists, speakers, writers in this movement, you'll definitely want to tune in or join us in person. Please make sure that you are either vaccinated or following the safety and social distancing protocols in person, because we will. But there are student rates available for both in-person and online streaming. We will have childcare available. and also sponsorship opportunities are still available. And this is a joint production with Black Nonbelievers, the Black Skeptics Group, and the Women's Leadership Project. And also, even though the time is winding down to register, there is still time to sign up for this year's BNCCon. We are back aboard the Carnival Horizon from November 7th through the 13th. Those are the ports of call, and there are some of the speakers and the activities that will take place. If you have never cruised with us, it is a wonderful and powerful experience. I highly recommend it. And if you can't consider it this year, please do consider next year. Once again, please make sure you are fully vaccinated. If you are going on the cruise, there are some folks here who are attending. They can attest to how much of a wonderful time we have, and just how great of a community experience it is. And one of the places that we'll be going on the cruise or during there is Hell. So one of our stops is Grand Cayman Island, and there is a town called Hell. And this is a picture from 2019 with a group of us and Daryl included, where we went to the town of Hell, and it was pretty hot. It was pretty hot that day, but it was just a wonderful experience, and to go to hell with a bunch of heathens. So, for those who always condemn us to hell, you can actually say you went there, especially if you go on a cruise. So that's a lot of fun. Now I'd like to, thank you very much once again for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much to everyone who continuously supports our organization. Recovering from Religion is a supporter. Gayle, Daryl, we have many of our members here. Please do consider joining them in your continued support for our work. Thank you.
Mandisa, thank you so much. What a fantastic presentation. I knew a little bit about Black Nonbelievers, but now I know so much more, and the respect that I had for you and the organization has just grown by leaps and bounds. Thank you so much. Great presentation. Before we kind of go into the questions, we got quite a few questions here. I just kind of want to say, Mandisa, this is something that is unique to when we have guests of color on RfRx. There is an increase of trolls. This is, and I hear from so many dumb people that racism doesn't exist, but to kind of see it directly reflected in this small little conversation we have every single time, it's just black and white. It's really apparent right there in front of us. So at the beginning, you had called it out, and as a kind of a reflexive type of thing, I sort of laughed to make myself feel comfortable, but this was uncomfortable. And if this is just a tiny glimpse into what people of color experience on a regular basis, then I'm glad that I got it to kind of understand more what folks like you go through.
Yeah, and this is a thing that I know, at least for myself, we just really, really want more people to understand what it is like for us and why there is a need for organizations to make those efforts to make more people comfortable and inclusive, to make sure that these trolls don't get away with it. Because unfortunately, this has been the case, and under the guise of that free speech and people being able to express themselves, that there have been people of color, there have been women that have been driven out of organizations because of a failure to act and to modify and manage, and also other organizations' failure to properly incorporate good leadership within their organization. And it is always a work in progress. It's not going to be easy. And thank you at RfR. Thank you all there for being on top of that, because you are setting a good example for other organizations that need it.
That was one of the options we. Oh, sorry, Kara, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to shout out again to our awesome troll smashers, Glenda and Rob. They were very, very busy tonight. So well done, guys. And also to you, Mandisa, for doing this anyway. And like Eric said, you told us ahead of time, you said, there's going to be trolls. And we said, yeah, we've got it under control. But, you know, because you experience this all the time. And, you know, this was, you know, one time in our group where we had, you know, this many trolls. And as they say, you know, the plural of anecdote is not data. But, you know, on the other hand, the plural of harassing and oppressing and violent experiences is systemic racism functionally. And that was to your point about critical race theory, or the trolls kind of made your point for you. That
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to the questions. One of the first questions we have is kind of on a really nice lighter note. What's your favorite hip hop artist? Or who's your favorite hip hop artist?
Gosh. I kind of have so many, but A Tribe Called Quest is one of my favorite hip hop groups ever. Yeah, and if you have Amazon Prime, the documentary Beats, Rhymes, and Life is available now to stream at no charge. So I highly recommend watching it. There is an awesome history of hip hop, especially in the New York City area back in the 70s, early 80s when it was just becoming popular. So I highly recommend watching it. You know, it's, you know, hip hop has just this very interesting history that actually goes, you know, beyond just New York and the United States. It actually goes back to the continent of Africa through spoken word. And so it's a way of carrying a tradition that, you know, was lost. And there are other cultures that have, you know, your griots and your spoken word artists and such. But yeah, it really connects in a way. And for those who just love it, I absolutely recommend it. Gosh, that's just always such a tough question. But yeah, A Tribe Called Quest is one of my favorite groups ever.
awesome. Okay, another one that somebody asked was, do you have any Black atheist groups that are outside of the US, and are the problems addressed by your group unique to the US?
So there are a few. Actually, last year, we collaborated with the Association of Black Humanists out of London. They were formerly the London Black Atheists. And we did a program called Atheism and Humanism Across the African Diaspora. So you got a chance to hear from atheist humanist organizers in the UK, in South Africa, Ghana, India, Nigeria, if you're familiar with Leo Igwe and his work with combating witchcraft with Foundation Beyond Belief as well. He was just a recipient of their Heart of Humanism award this year. So yes, there are humanist organizations. You also have, there are a couple of organizations in Uganda. I think there's a school, humanist school in Uganda. No, the Center for Inquiry has they have a branch either in Kenya or Uganda or both. You also have atheists in Kenya. There's a South African society. Yeah, if you there are quite a few out there if you are interested in and also on Facebook there are some groups that some are private because there are a lot of ex-Muslims in some of those groups, and so they have to be very, very careful regarding privacy. So yeah, those are just a few. But yeah, if you take a look through our YouTube channel, you can take a look particularly at that program that we did last year with the Association of Black Humanists. I mean, it was amazing.
One of the second part of that question was, do the groups have this address similar issues that Black
Yes.
non-believers?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I meant to, yes, many of the issues that we face across the diaspora are very similar. There's often, you know, many of their communities where there's a very high concentration of religious folks, particularly within Black communities. And also to openly identify is so much more challenging. But there are still, you know, they are still meeting, they are still being active. And yes, many of our challenges are very, very similar. Of course, in certain countries, in Nigeria, for example, we have Mubarak Bala, who is still, I think, in prison because he was one of the, I think he was the president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria there, and he made a comment about Islam and he was arrested. So, there was a worldwide campaign. I think he was finally able to see his attorney, but yeah, in some countries, being an open atheist means it's still punishable by death. And so I think that over here in this country where we are able to actually say something and do something about it, there is a bit of, I think, and I don't try to push this on people, but we have an opportunity to mobilize and make our voices heard for those who can't. And yes, many of our organizations, we do find that we are facing many of the same challenges.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm with you. You mentioned the name of a documentary. Could you say that one more time? I think we got it in the chat, but some people were asking what that documentary
was. It related to religion or?
About hip hop music.
Oh, it's called Beats, Rhymes, and Life, about a tribe called Quest.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, several people were interested in looking that up.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. The next question is, does Black Nonbelievers, do they have virtual meetings for folks who don't live in cities where you have the chapters? Like as in, if I was a Black person living in, say, Springfield, Missouri, would I be able to attend a meeting?
Absolutely. So you can join any one of the meetup groups to participate in our virtual events. And just for the record, we have affiliates, not chapters. I know that word is interchangeable, but yeah, they are affiliates. But yes, okay, yes, we do. That is the short answer. Yes, we do.
And people can find these meetup groups through the Black Nonbelievers website.
Yes, where you can find BN. There is it's close to the top of our website. You can join any one, or you can find the one that's either closest to you, or the best bet would be to join the Atlanta, which is the flagship group. And that's where we post all of our events.
So going back to the music again, another person was wondering, how do you feel about gospel music when you hear it?
How do I feel about what?
Gospel music.
It's funny because gospel was never one of my favorite genres. Some, it's interesting. Gospel is, I used to sing neo spirituals, in churches and such, but like gospel, for me, it's just, I like some gospel songs. The lyrics, can be quite, they are quite polarizing to me. And to be honest, as much as I now wince at some of the old school hip hop lyrics, I would rather listen to a song by Two Live Crew or someone than to listen to some gospel, because there's just some, some of it is just, it's, it can be very, and it was interesting because referring to Juneteenth, right? There was they had quite a few, gospel artists after the church sermon. And it was just like, oh, geez, it was just so indicative of, just some of, it was just so indicative, some of the weird stuff that we see, it's of the weird glorified culture of the, of religion in the Black community. It's just, it's like, oh my gosh. But gospel, I don't knock it for people who still like it. And there's still a lot of atheists who still like gospel. It's just music, right? But for me, it's not, hip hop and jazz are my favorite genres. But I would say as gospel, it's like, it wasn't a genre that I had to wrestle with. I didn't have to say, well, I don't believe anymore, but I still like music. And for me, I don't begrudge people who still like it.
Yeah, it might have to do maybe partially with growing up with it, because I know that when we would sing hymns or good songs in church, like it would feel so good. And hearing some of those songs now, even then, still kind of, even now, kind of feels good. And but I kind of grew up with it in some of my formative years, so perhaps gospel is something similar to that. We got another question here. Is Black Nonbelievers involved with Ayan Hirsi Ali? I'm not sure who that person is. If
No, I'm very much aware of who Ayan Hirsi Ali is. Now she has been, I mean, I certainly respect her journey and how she escaped from Islam. She is originally, I think, from Somalia, and former Muslim. She has kind of aligned herself. I don't think, there are some, I think she would actually like say, she'd be one of those people who would say, like, why does there need to be a Black non-believers, to be honest? I mean, it's unfortunate, but no, we haven't. And ironically, she spoke at the American Atheists Convention in Memphis in 2015, and I didn't get a chance to see her presentation. But I really, she's aired, she's been on like the conservative side of things, and it's been a little disappointing. But I certainly respect her journey and what she's been able to accomplish. But no, we are not directly affiliated with her.
Got it. And we have one final question before we wrap this up. And you may not be able to answer this question, but how many secular therapists are in the Atlanta area?
How many secular therapists? That I don't know. That might be a question for RfR, the Secular Therapy Project. Now, I do know that one of our members in the Augusta area was just accepted into the program, Jerry Smith. So Augusta is about 2.5 hours away from Atlanta. So actually, there is another one, Sandria. Sandria from my Power My Choice counseling. I think y'all might have connected with her. She recently moved here to the Atlanta area. And so, she is here now. So we're actually going to have her as our guest speaker for our general meeting in August that we're having here. So I'm going to try to see if we can stream it some way. But yeah, there is another. Now, as far as others, I think there are some, but I'm not sure of any more offhand that I can name.
Folks, if you are interested in checking out if there's a secular therapist near you, it is like a directory. So me as a client, I would go in, create an account, and put in my zip code, and be able to search within a certain radius or even the entire state as to where secular therapy, who is nearby me, or who is in the directory. So I put a link in the chat, and head to seculartherapy.org, set up an account, and put your zip code in. You'll be able to find therapists near you. And then actually we had one final question that came in that I thought was pretty darn cool. You had mentioned that you were a classically trained singer. Mm-hmm. And the question is, do you plan on making an album?
That's funny. I'm not sure, but I will say now that if you are already registered for Women of Color Beyond Belief, or if you aren't or interested, you will be seeing a special performance by me. I will give that part away now. So I highly recommend that you register for the Women of Color Beyond Belief conference, so that you can, I'm not, it's so funny. I don't know about like doing a music, but I am involved with the Godless Gospel Project with Dan Barker from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So he has put together, he's been working with some other artists, and singers, and has written some songs. And so of course the pandemic delayed everything, but I am a part of the Gospel Godless project that should be debuting hopefully in the near future. So even if it isn't my own album at some point, I don't know. But I am involved with some musical projects.
It does sound like there might be a demand for an album by Mandisa.
That's what I'm seeing in the chat. So
Well, Mandisa, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and telling us all about what Black Nonbelievers do and the need that they fill. We have a hangout after every RfRx where we turn off the recording. If you have some time to hang out with some of the folks that will stay after?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up this main part, the discussion part of RfRx. Kara, this isn't the last one, is it?
no, we do this every Monday night. And in fact, we have another foundation spotlight next Monday. It's going to be about the Clergy Project with Charles Hill. And just a brief description of that, the professional clergy, such as pastors, priests, ministers, rabbis, imams, face some unique challenges when transitioning out of religion. For example, their livelihood relies on leading their flock, but when their faith is gone, they may be stuck in the pulpit, usually without the skills or connections to simply walk away. And so Charles Hill, a former minister and current communications director for the Clergy Project, will discuss with us the unique challenges faced by these professional clergy who no longer believe what they're preaching, and how the Clergy Project provides a safe, supportive landing space for them to share and discuss their loss of faith, family, career, livelihoods, divorce, mental health, and even suicide. So if any of that sounds interesting, please be sure and join us next week to hear about that. I think it's going to be a really good talk. And as always, all of our previous RfRx recordings can be found on our YouTube channel, like we mentioned earlier. And if you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future shows that you'd like to see, be sure to email us at rfrx@recoveringfromreligion.org. And don't forget to visit our blog and our podcast. And Eric is dropping all of those links into the chat because he is very fast at that. Thank you, Eric. And would you like to tell us about social media?
Heck yeah. I mean, like after whatever 70 episodes, I better be somewhat good at this. Yes, and folks, we like Mandisa said, go out and support Black Nonbelievers. This is one of the fantastic nonprofits and foundations that we really encourage you to support. Supporting Recovering from Religion and Black Nonbelievers is really helpful on social media. We're all over the place as well. You can like, follow, share, whatever the heck. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitters, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. And so I'm going to drop all of those in the chat. In addition to that, we've got a newsletter. And in this newsletter, you guys asked for it and we got it. In this newsletter, there will be the resources from the previous RfRx's discussion. There'll be links to the videos that have been published on the YouTube channel. There will be links to the blog talking about the blog entries that have been recently posted and all sorts of great news and such. So if you are interested in the newsletter, go ahead and sign up for that as well. Now, we're going to bring on our fabulous and amazing and super fantastically fit, because she just got done with a huge bike ride. We got our executive director, Gayle Jordan, on in a minute. And I'm going to launch a feedback poll. So I would like to hear your feedback. It really kind of helps us direct what kind of things you like and what kind of things you don't like. So without further ado, my dear friend Gayle, welcome. And how are you doing today?
Thank you, Eric. I'm doing fine. I'm recovering from that bike ride. My family rides our bicycles across the state of Iowa every July, or most every July. And so I've just returned from that. Mandisa, thank you for a wonderful presentation. There's never a time when you speak that I don't learn something. Mandisa and I have been friends for a number of years, and we find ourselves tabling side by side at conferences. And I have learned so much from her, not just in the formal presentations, but informally as well. And Mandisa is an ambassador and a diplomat. And so I want to circle back to something that she said earlier in her talk, talking to the white people in the room. When Mandisa says to listen to voices of color, it's hard to do that when our gums are flapping. And one of the things I have learned the most is for us to stop talking and start listening. there are many ways that you can elevate voices of color. Seek out Black authors, Black artists, Black activists, and support them. Support them with your social media follows. Find them. Seek them out. Educate yourself about who these folks are. Buy and read and order the books. Buy and read and listen to the music. There are so many things that you can do to elevate the voices of people of color, but you can't do it, and you can't elevate those voices by retweeting or reposting if you're too busy saying stuff of your own. So it's just a little thing that I have learned from Mandisa over the years. Another thing I want to mention, and we've all said it, as one executive director, speaking on behalf of another executive director, Mandisa does not care how you support her or how much you can give. If you can give $2 a month or $3 a month or $4 a month, that's okay. We get that. Everybody's in a struggle. And she is grateful for that. The community is grateful for that. And I promise you, as a financial contributor of Black Nonbelievers, you will have a feeling of, I don't know what I can do, and I know this experience. I'll never understand this experience firsthand, but I know I can do this. So if you would go to visit the Black Nonbeliever site, make your monthly contribution, your annual contribution, whatever it is that works for you and your family and your budget, I know she would appreciate that. And if you find yourself with some time, please try to attend the Women of Color Conference. It's in Chicago this year. It should be an awesome time. And you can do what Mandisa and I are both doing, which is attend the fall excursion one weekend and attend the Women of Color Conference the very following weekend. Mandisa will be participating in our fall excursion. If you don't know what that is, this may be your first time at RfRx. If you'll visit recoveringfromreligion.org and click on fall excursion, this is our weekend religion recovery retreat. We'd love to have you join us. And then the following weekend is the Women of Color Conference. Mandisa, thank you again for such a wonderful presentation and for being all that you are and everyone that you help through the years. Thanks so much, guys.